In the age of steam and steel, when the oceans still belonged to giants, one vessel stood above the rest. Her name was USS Cyclops, hull number AC-4, a colossus born in 1910 from the iron workshops of William Cramp & Sons Shipbuilding Company in Philadelphia. At 542 feet long and displacing more than 19,000 tons when fully loaded, Cyclops was the pride of the Proteus-class fleet colliers, massive vessels built to refuel and resupply the expanding U.S. Navy across distant seas. Her mission was simple but essential: deliver coal, oil, and raw materials to warships and bases across the globe. Her fate, however, would become anything but simple. Commissioned on May 1, 1917, just weeks after the United States entered the First World War, Cyclops became one of the most valuable logistical assets in the Atlantic Fleet. She carried not only fuel but men, machinery, and hopes. Early in her service, Cyclops participated in humanitarian and naval missions in the Caribbean and Mexico, including operations off Veracruz during 1914. By 1917, she was serving between the U.S. East Coast and Caribbean bases, ensuring the steady flow of resources to the Allied front. But her final mission would take her far south, to the coast of Brazil, a crucial partner in the Allied supply network. In January 1918, the Cyclops received orders to head to Rio de Janeiro. She left Norfolk, Virginia, loaded with coal for the Allied fleet operating in the South Atlantic. After delivering the shipment, she was to return north with a new cargo, manganese ore, vital for producing high-grade steel and munitions. On February 20th, she docked at Salvador, Bahia, where Brazilian port records confirm she loaded over 10,000 tons of manganese, far denser than coal and dangerously heavy for her hull design. The ship's engineer noted structural strain. One of the starboard engine cylinders showed cracks, limiting power output. Still, the Navy ordered her to proceed home. At the helm was Commander George W. Worley, a man respected for experience, yet described by some crew as temperamental. Official testimonies later mentioned irregular discipline and growing tension aboard. Some officers accused Worley of erratic behavior, even paranoia. Others defended him as overworked, a sailor consumed by the stress of wartime logistics. Whatever the truth, the atmosphere aboard Cyclops as she prepared to leave Brazil was uneasy. The ship's decks groaned under the weight of manganese, her engines strained, and her crew, exhausted, longed for home. On March 4, 1918, Cyclops departed Barbados, her final known port of call, bound for Baltimore, Maryland. Weather reports were fair, seas calm. She was expected to arrive by March 13th. But the ship, and everyone aboard, simply vanished. No SOS, no debris, no survivors. The Navy's communication logs show no further transmissions after she left Barbados. Cyclops had entered what would later be known as the Bermuda Triangle, though in 1918 that term did not yet exist. When Cyclops failed to arrive, the U.S. Navy launched one of its largest peacetime search efforts. Ships and aircraft combed the Caribbean and Western Atlantic for weeks. Nothing. No floating wreckage, no oil slicks, no bodies. On June 1, 1918, the Navy officially declared the Cyclops lost with all hands, 309 souls, including passengers and crew. It remains the single greatest non-combat loss in U.S. naval history. The loss occurred at a time when German U-boats prowled the Atlantic. At first, investigators suspected an attack, perhaps a torpedo or mine. But no German records ever mentioned engaging a ship matching Cyclops's description. Other theories emerged: a sudden storm, an explosion, a structural failure from the overloaded cargo. All were plausible, none conclusive. Official Navy Report, 1918. Many theories have been advanced, but none that satisfactorily accounts for her disappearance. That single sentence remains the only official conclusion ever written. Though the term Bermuda Triangle would only appear decades later, the loss of the Cyclops became one of the foundational cases of the legend, a real event, wrapped in mystery, that defied reason. For families of the 309 men, there was no closure, no grave, only the Atlantic. Decades later, authors and historians would revisit the case, trying to separate fact from myth. Yet the truth remains elusive. How could a steel giant vanish without a trace in one of the world's busiest sea lanes? For the U.S. Navy, the Cyclops became a cautionary tale of overloaded ships, mechanical neglect, and the sea's relentless unpredictability. For others, it became something darker, the first recorded victim of an invisible phenomenon lurking in the western Atlantic. Whatever the cause, the Cyclops left a void not just in the ocean, but in history, a silence that would echo through every disappearance that followed. 309 men, a 165-meter ship, a calm ocean, and nothing left behind. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops is not a legend. It is a documented fact. And like all great mysteries, it began not with an explosion or a storm, but with silence. In the next episode, we examine the official investigation, the Navy's unanswered questions, the mechanical theories, and the hidden documents that suggest the Cyclops may have been doomed before it ever left Brazil.